Hi, I'm Joe from AWS, and today we're going to weld fillet welds using the FLUX core arc welding process. Remember, before we start welding, we want to make sure we're in a safe environment and we're utilizing the correct PPE. So, we have 1/4" material here tacked up in a T-fillet. We are going to weld this in the horizontal position using a gas shielded flux core wire. I've gone ahead, removed the mill scale. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the wire in the gun right down to the joint root, start off on the edge here. And once we're ready to start that arc, we're going to pull the trigger. While I'm welding, I'm going to try to keep the wire centered into the joint root, establishing that weld pool about 1/4" to 5/16 in diameter. Also, it's important to maintain the correct contact tip to work distance, and that's going to be about 3/4 inch. We also want to make sure that our work angle is about 45 degrees and our travel angle is about 30. And we're gonna drag this because we have a slag that's being produced, and once we get to the end of the plate, we're gonna release that trigger and shut off that arc. We got the lap joint. Here, I've gone ahead, used a grinder to remove the mill scale, and already tacked it. When you're ready to weld, go ahead, position the gun and the wire right at the joint root, and pull the trigger when ready. Once the arc is established and you got the molten pool, try to get it about 5/16 to 1/4" in diameter. Then maintain about a 30-degree travel angle while welding. Also, you'll want to maintain about a 45-degree work angle so that you get the bead to lay down in the joint root as best as possible, all while catching that top edge. Move along until you reach the end of the plate, release the trigger, and end the weld. Here is the fillet weld on pipe. I have a piece of 3" Schedule 40 to a flat 3/8 plate. When you're ready to start the weld, we're going to start the arc right in the joint, preferably off a tack weld. We want to maintain about a 45-degree work angle and about a 45 to 30-degree travel angle. Remember, we're welding around pipe, so we're going to have to move around a radius. Make sure you position your body so that you can make that transition while welding. In most cases, you're going to have to stop and continue this weld. If you can rotate it, the pipe, great. If not, go ahead, reposition, and start that weld and continue around until you complete. Once done, remove the slag and inspect the weld. When completed, we want to see a nice uniform bead. This is a great example. The width all the way across is uniform and consistent. To achieve that, we want to make sure that we're keeping the correct work and travel angles and a uniform travel speed across the plate. Also, it's really important to make sure that your contact tip to work distance is maintained about 3/4 inch. If you get too far out, you might see some porosity. If you get too close, you might see worm tracking or a squirrely looking bead. If you start to see undercut, make adjustments in your travel angle or the settings on the machine. When you get to the end of the weld, pull off, take a look, and adjust from there. Here's the completed lap weld. Let's take a look at it and see what a quality weld looks like. We want to see a uniform bead, which we have here, and we want to make sure that it has a nice convex profile, which we're looking at here. We also want to make sure that we got great tie-in from the top plate down to the bottom plate. We don't see any gouges in the base material or undercutting, which is good. This is exactly what we're after. If the weld doesn't quite look like this, you may need to go back to the machine and adjust your parameters to get the weld that you're after. Here we have a great example of a fillet weld around pipe. What we want to do to achieve a weld like this is maintain a nice drag angle while we move across the radius of the pipe. We always want to make sure that we're looking at the toes of the weld while welding, that we're not getting undercut, and we want to make sure that the profile of the weld is convex. No motion should be applied, just a slight little drag, maybe a little wiggle if necessary, but maintain that work and travel angle while you're welding. If you're maintaining the proper work and travel angles, but you're still not getting a quality weld, you may need to go to the machine and adjust your parameters to dial it in.